Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 Rakshamam. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. Okay, so I hope you all found the place we're starting from. This is just this paragraph is kind of continuing from the previous paragraph, where Krishna in the last few paragraphs has been speaking to the gopis as they've left all their responsibilities on hearing the sound of his flute, and they follow that sound. They drop all their duties and follow that sound, and they come and see Krishna in the forest. And Krishna begins to tease them. He doesn't say, let's have a dance in the middle of the night. No, he doesn't. What he says is, what are you doing here? It's late at night. Don't you know how dangerous it is? You know, don't you have responsibilities? Huh? Don't you? So then Krishna, he uses like different ways of like, you know, playing with their emotions to see how determined they are to stay with him. Yeah. He said people will think very badly of you if you come out here and you're coming to see me. We're young boys and young girls. We shouldn't be out here at night. What else does Krishna say? Huh? Then he also like says some very enchanting things. Like, you're all very beautiful, and it doesn't look good for, you know, me to be here with you because you're very beautiful and I'm also very attractive. What will people think? Will your family be able to accept you back? You come running out at night. So Krishna makes the gopis a little bit disturbed and angry. Yeah. And then again Krishna, but as he's talking in this way, then the gopis start to like think, oh, you know, whatever. And they just start to look at the beauty of Vrindavan, and they start to look at the trees and the beautiful hills and the river Yamuna, and they smell the fragrance of the flowers. Yeah, because they know that Krishna just called them out here, and just because he's teasing them, they're not going to go away. Yeah. So then Krishna starts to speak about the duties of women. So we started the first part of that paragraph, the first paragraph on this topic last week. So just a couple of points from there. Krishna says, I must explain to you that for a chaste woman, service to the husband without duplicity is the best religion. Yeah. So Krishna is saying the best religion for a woman is to serve the husband. And then he gives a list of qualities that constitute what that type of service to the husband means. You know, that you should be affectionate to those who the husband is affectionate to, namely his parents, his family members, his friends, and so on, his children. And you should have the same kind of principles, the same principles that your husband has. So now in this paragraph, Krishna is going to continue that, and then we'll discuss a little bit about it. Because Prabhupada says that these instructions are really very important for women to learn about. Okay, so we can try and discuss it a little bit. Have you all found the place we're reading from now? Yeah? Okay. Okay, and if anyone would like to read, then it'd be appreciated you could put a number in the chat box. Otherwise, you'll find me reading and speaking a lot, and it'll be very boring for you. So please participate. As you know, this is a discussion. I'm not here to do a lecture. So I'd like to see some volunteers read for reading, please. I'll start everyone off. I'll read the first paragraph. In this way, Krishna explained the duty of a woman. He also stressed the point of serving the husband. Even if he is not of very good character, or even if he is not very rich or fortunate, or even if he is old or invalid on account of continued diseases, whatever her husband's condition, a woman should not divorce her husband if she actually desires to be elevated to the higher planetary systems after leaving this body. Besides that, it is considered abominable in society if a woman is unfaithful and goes searching for another man. Such habits will deter a woman from being elevated to the heavenly planets, and the result of such habits are very degrading. A married woman should not search for a paramour, for this is not sanctified by the Vedic principles of life. If you think that you are very much attached to me and you want my association, I advise you not to personally try to enjoy me. It is better for you to go home, simply talk about me and think of me, and by this process of constantly remembering me and chanting my names, you will surely be elevated to the spiritual platform. There is no need to stand near me. Please, go back home. Okay. So Krishna is continuing to go all these moral instructions to the gopis. How does that make you all feel? Knowing that the gopis are very surrendered to Krishna, and that Krishna has called them out specifically, they could hear the flute, but not everyone could hear the flute of Krishna. Yeah. So he specifically called them. So what do you feel about this?
I think it's the gopis probably are disappointed because demotivated, because they were specifically invited by the flute, and that flute, Dhwani, I think it's the 6th or the 7th note is specifically for the gopis, and nobody else can hear that note. So it was like a personal invitation for the gopis, and when they came in, Krishna is trying to send them back. I think he's only teasing, but I think gopis were a bit disappointed if he sends them back.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they are feeling very disappointed, but actually they're actually in a lot of ecstasy because they are with Krishna now. It's just them and Krishna, because there's never been a situation where they can be with Krishna. So this is their moment that they can be with Krishna. So at the same time, Krishna is disappointing them. But what's stronger? Is their disappointment stronger, or is their love for Krishna stronger?
Their love for Krishna is stronger than disappointment.
Okay.
So they're willing to tolerate whatever Krishna is saying, because their love is quite strong. So even if they get upset, they're willing to tolerate it because their love for Krishna is stronger.
Right. Okay. And is there anything that you can think about from this paragraph we read, the instructions to women?
I think that Krishna is testing the purity of the intentions of gopis, because he's reminding which way they should communicate with him, that they shouldn't look at him like to a man, like to a male, because they might be tempted to see this way, a little bit romantic way, and he highlights that if they look at him this way, until way, so they'd rather go home. Because this is not what he was inviting them for.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. Yeah, so Krishna's seeing, like, are they just looking at him like an ordinary, beautiful young man, handsome young man? Krishna's just trying to see, is that just all that they're trying to see him as? Because if that's the case, then better they go home. Nice point. Thank you. Anyone else have any thoughts?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Satyanarayana Prabhu.
Yes, this what I can see, this conversation at that time, over 5,000 years ago.
Hmm.
But from these present days, what women has to learn, because it says here, doesn't matter what condition your husband is, in what situation he is, but
Yeah.
it's your duty to serve him. So that's for women to learn, actually.
So that's the important point, right? Don't reject the husband based on the conditions that can change in the world, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. Okay, that's a nice. Yeah, that is very instructive, actually. So I was just hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam recently, and it may be interesting to you as well that there is a small section in there which is really useful and instructive in terms of the duties of women. And then I heard that, and then immediately when I was reading this, I was like, wow, so many similar points are in here too. So for those who want to read about that, then you can read how Narada Muni is instructing Maharaj Yudhishthira. Just after telling the pastime of Lord Nrsimhadev, then he goes on to explain the different duties of men and women, and also different social orders of life, and how society can function best. So that comes from, if you want to read it in your own time, is from the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam in chapter 11, and it's quite towards the end. It begins from text number 24. So 7, canto 7, chapter 11, text 24, through to text 29. So you may be interested in reading that section of the Bhagavatam. And it gives really nice instructions on how men and women can have good relationships, especially by the behavior from the women's side. So Krishna does bring out many of these points here also. And it may be interesting to read that. Just adding to what Ekal Mataji said, I was thinking here, just at the end of this paragraph, Krishna says also something which he says in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Yes, Krishna says, actually let me find that. Well, I couldn't remember it exactly. Right at the beginning of the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells us the readers of Bhagavad Gita, and those who are practicing Bhakti Yoga. Sorry, it's the very first text of this 7th chapter. Krishna says, now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full and free from doubt. So basically what Krishna is saying there is the same as what he's saying here. He's telling the gopis that you should go home and listen to talks about me and remember me, and then you'll become spiritually advanced. That's what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita too. You'll know me free from doubt. Yeah. But even though that's also good instruction, still the gopis don't leave. Okay. So there's something more. There's something more to bhakti than just that, just hearing about Krishna and remembering him, and then ultimately going to him. So we'll find out from the next paragraph. Okay. Is there any comments or questions at this stage? If you're all very eager to move on to the next one. Yes. The instructions given herein by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to the gopis was not at all sarcastic. Such instructions should be taken very seriously by all honest women. The chastity of women is specifically stressed herein by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, this principle should be followed by any serious woman who wants to be elevated to a higher status of life. Krishna is the center of all affection for all living creatures. When this affection is developed for Krishna, one surpasses and transcends all Vedic injunctions. This was possible for the gopis because they saw Krishna face to face. This is not possible for any woman in the conditioned state. Unfortunately, sometimes a rascal following the philosophy of monism or oneness very irresponsibly takes advantage of this Ras Leela to imitate the behavior of Krishna with the gopis, entice many innocent women and mislead them into the name of spiritual realization. In the name of spiritual realization. As a warning, Lord Krishna has herein hinted that what was possible for the gopis is not possible for ordinary women. Although a woman can actually be elevated by advanced Krishna consciousness, she should not be enticed by an impostor who says that he is Krishna. She should concentrate her devotional activities in chanting about Krishna and meditating upon him. And as is advised herein, one should not follow the men called sahajas, the so-called devotees who take everything very lightly. So Prabhupada is giving us a nice explanation of Krishna's words now. Yes. So on one hand, we should take these instructions which Krishna is saying to the ladies very seriously. Yes. He's stressing that it's not a joke, even though in the past time it's coming across that way. Actually, what he's saying is right, is truthful, and it should be followed. But on a higher level, because the gopis are personally with Krishna, and as Ekul Mataji said, that because they're personally with Krishna, they're not dealing with an ordinary man. Yeah. So Krishna is also giving this instruction to the gopis because if in future someone tries to imitate Krishna, if an ordinary man tries to imitate Krishna, then we shouldn't take it seriously, because Krishna gave serious instructions before he had his Ras Leela with the gopis. Yes. So these cheaters, or sahajas as they're called, they would not do that, because their attitude is to exploit the pastimes of Krishna and to exploit other women. And so these instructions are important to know for that reason. Would anyone else like to share thoughts or questions?
It's quite difficult to know who is who sometimes, who is misleading, who is telling the truth.
Your phone is, your sound is cutting out a bit. Can everyone else hear clearly? No, your sound is cutting out. Maybe you need to bring the microphone closer.
Maybe. Can you tell me that?
No, unfortunately, it's not very clear. You try one more time. Maybe, on your headset, on your earphones, have you got microphone there?
Could be. They have.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's much better.
much better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to say that sometimes it's really difficult to recognize who is proper, full, pure devotee, and who is just manipulating and playing around and trying to get some personal advantage. Because judging and criticizing other devotees as well can be a very big offense.
Yeah.
So trying nitpicking, like who is doing what, and can I believe this devotee? That's a tricky part probably. To who you can trust, who you can follow, who is right, and who is making a human mistake, probably not even intentionally, unintentionally.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic in itself, actually. So how do we know who is a genuine representative of Krishna? Yeah. Well, there are descriptions in the scriptures of what someone who is a Kanishta devotee or a beginner devotee, what kind of qualities they have. What is the qualities of someone who is a middle level devotee, a Madhyama devotee? And there's also descriptions of someone who is Uttama, who is the highest devotee, pure devotee. What is the symptoms? What is the characteristics that they have? So we can refer to scripture. Scripture does give descriptions, which are very helpful for us to know. So specifically in the Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Instruction by Rupa Goswami, he explains the different levels of devotees there. Yeah, it's not a very big book, Nectar of Instruction. So in that book, you'll find in the text 6 in that book, yeah, the different types of devotees Prabhupada discusses. Also in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna speaks to Uddhava about the different stages of spiritual master, identifying who is really an advanced spiritual master. And also in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna summarizes as well how to be faithful to the spiritual master. And that's in chapter 4. Krishna speaks about that in text 34, 434 from Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says that we should do 4 things. We should first of all approach the person. We should actually, go to the person and see how they behave. We should try and approach the person, and we should make inquiries. We should actually ask. Not that we have to believe everything that they say. There is a period when someone approaches an advanced spiritual master that we can inquire. We can not in a challenging way, but in a humble way, inquire and serve them. And we can, from what we learn from them, we can check, like, do the scriptures also say the same thing they're telling me? Because the scriptures have got a vast number of instructions, and some of those instructions are useful to us at a particular time. So if the spiritual master is able to pick out those instructions which are right for us, we should also be able to see those same instructions in the scripture. And so this way the spiritual master can impart knowledge because they have seen the truth. So we have to have some faith that the truth is known by some very special souls in this world. We have to have that faith. And on that faith, we'll be able to go and find out who is a real pure devotee. And pure devotee doesn't just mean someone who is guru or someone who is sannyasi. Actually, we never even know that it could be just be the guy cleaning the pots in the temple. Could be a pure devotee, could have a pure heart. We don't know, That's the nature of bhakti. Krishna bhakti is actually available for anyone. So there are principles by which we can measure someone's devotion. And we should do that with a sincere mood to, want to surrender and serve the pure devotees, because that is really pleasing to Krishna. And not only is it pleasing to Krishna, we'll also progress, we'll also become very dear to Krishna by the association of the pure devotee ourselves. So it's a big topic. I hope I just been able to summarize it okay for you.
That was helpful. I'm always thinking what to do if you face, several times happened to me that, as you mentioned, I checked information in scriptures as much as I can remember myself. I cannot say that I know the scriptures very well. I know something, but there was contradiction between what the person said and what was in scriptures. And I was a little bit, or how the person was behaving, and I didn't know how to behave. Like, should I directly confront? Yeah, so that's a tricky moment, because I noticed that I didn't say anything, but I started criticizing in my mind, and then I felt like how much negativity I created by that, and I think I created the offense. So now
Yeah.
we must be very careful because Krishna must be testing us different ways as well. Yeah, like I'm going too much into this question too far. So we're getting
Yeah,
away
it's
from
because of the personal nature of it. You know, like the way that it will work for you will be different to others. But the principle will always be like, if you are sincere, Krishna sees that. You know, if you have doubts, that's natural. In the beginning, we have doubts, and that's why we need to approach spiritually advanced souls. I want to see if Satyanarayan Prabhu will add any points.
As you said, in the beginning, we should have doubts. And as you clear your doubts by approaching spiritual master gradually, and as you clear the doubts, you get closer to Krishna, because
Yes.
you know more about Krishna, and that increases your faith.
Yeah. Also, by discussing with devotees in general, we can understand what instructions there are in scriptures. It's not like that we should know that we will know all the scriptures in the beginning. We can ask questions from senior devotees and then discuss the answers with others, you know, others who know us closely. So that's the actually amazing thing about the Vedic tradition. It's not just like do this. It's not just all rituals. It's actually developing a really good understanding of Krishna personally.
Yeah, even having association with devotees and learning from each other, Krishna appreciates.
Yeah. Anyone else would like to?
That's classified as a Sankirtan, isn't it?
I would like to have
That's right.
I would like to ask you.
You want to ask a question? Okay, you can ask me after, isn't it? You can ask me anytime after.
I want to ask you a question.
Okay, let's call Mama to come and get you, okay?
No.
She wants to be the star of the show. Sorry, Prabhu, were you going to add something?
No.
Okay, then, is that okay, Mataji? There you go, Mataji. Right. Okay, so I hope those few points give you some inspiration, and I pointed out a few references which you might want to read on, some specific places you could read about in terms of determining who is an advanced devotee, and then also just some practical things which Prabhu and I tried to share.
One thing I like to point out, like earlier on question was, who is the real representative of Krishna? So I would say one who talks nothing but Krishna or relates to Krishna, and that's a real representative.
Yes. In the beginning of ISKCON, Prabhupada was talking to the reporter, and many of the hippies were there, and you know, those hippies, they'd either just become devotees or they were still like hippies, you know, and they were still very new to Krishna consciousness. And the reporter asked Prabhupada, so how do you know who is a real devotee, who's a pure devotee? He said that pure devotee means one who's addicted to Krishna. So it's very interesting Prabhupada used those words, because the hippies, they were thinking, well, we're addicted to drugs, so we know what addict means. So we should find someone who's not addicted to drugs, but who's addicted to Krishna. So there's a nice instruction in different levels for them. And they could see Prabhupada was actually addicted to Krishna. He would always talk about Krishna in his lectures, when he's walking with devotees and talking with devotees, when he has different meetings, and he was always chanting. So, yes. So someone who's dedicated to Prabhupada as well, as addicted to Krishna, I can say. Now, Smita Mataji, would you like to read next?
Thank you, Hare Krishna. When Krishna spoke in such a discouraging way to the gopis, they became very sad, for they thought that their desire to enjoy their ras dance with Krishna would be frustrated. Thus they became full of anxiety. After great sadness, the gopis began to breathe very heavily. Instead of looking at Krishna face to face, they bowed their heads and looked at the ground. And they began to draw various types of curved lines on the ground with their toes. They were shedding heavy tears, and their cosmetic decorations were being washed from their faces. The water from their eyes mixed with the gungum on their breasts and fell to the ground. They could not say anything to Krishna, but simply stood there silently. By their silence, they expressed that their hearts were grievously wounded.
How does this make you feel on reading this paragraph?
Just makes you feel sorry for the gopis.
Yeah.
Especially, it just probably they felt a bit insulted because, you know, it's like you invite a guest to your house and then you say, oh, go away, I don't want you anymore. So probably they were feeling like that. And but because they had this strong love for Krishna, they didn't object to it. And the way they were expressing their love is with tears in their eyes and drawing lines on the ground. So I think they were kind of disappointed, but they didn't want to give up the association of Krishna or the love they had for Krishna, which was pure love to serve Krishna and make him, you know, it was pure love for Krishna that was really holding them there.
Yeah, I agree with what you just mentioned. They couldn't say anything because they loved Krishna so much. They were hurt, but they couldn't say or didn't want to say anything. I'm just wondering if they also were thinking in their minds that, you know, we love Krishna so much, but why can't he understand us? He's supposed to know everything that goes on inside us. So why can't he understand the fact as to why we are here? So probably that's the reason they were, you know, that circle that they made with their feet, that is so indicative of hurt, but still not, but also a bit of, you know, hurt mixed with a bit of emotion as to why Krishna is not able to understand them.
Yeah, it was difficult to hear you. It was cutting out towards the end a lot.
The internet is playing up a bit. That's the reason I'm not on video. It's playing up a bit.
Right. Yeah, so really nice points made there. So yeah, they are feeling very despondent, isn't it? That they haven't given up on Krishna, but at the same time they're feeling hurt. So this is described in the Shikshastakam prayers, which is the prayers spoken by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Very interesting prayers because the prayers talk about the very beginning stages of chanting, right up to the most advanced stages of chanting, up to the stages of Gopi Bhav, which these gopis are experiencing. And then the last verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he says, Asisya va padaratam pinastumam adarshanam mama vataram karotu va yatha tatha va vidatalam pato mat prananathastu sevana para. That this is exactly the mood of the gopis there. The crying of the gopis is like, I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. And then the interesting part here is the prayer is, he is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. So you see, on one hand, they're willing to let Krishna do anything. Yeah, they don't mind how Krishna treats them because their love is completely unconditional. And on the other hand, he will always remain their Lord, will always be the Lord, no matter what he does, because their love is so unconditional. So this is actually really being expressed by the gopis. This is actually their real emotions to Krishna. Yeah. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he makes this very clear in his prayers. So you can see it's a very very descriptive and beautiful description, a very detailed description of the scene there in Vrindavan, yeah, at the Rasa Sthala. That the gopis are crying and the water's going down, their bodies onto the floor, you know, and you know, all their makeup is being spoiled and so on. It's a very heavy scene, yeah. And so Krishna, he does this with his devotees. You know, it's what's the term? I don't know, Satyanarayana, probably, if you remember. You know, he makes them very emotionally, like brings them very down and then very up. You know, the emotions in the pastimes are like that. They're always like waves. The pastimes are not just like, you know, static, that, you know, just begins like this and it ends like this. That's it. No, in all the pastimes we always see waves, isn't it? Therefore, it's called the waves of devotion. Huh? Like in an ocean, there are so many waves. Yeah. And so bhakti is like that. It's like an ocean, and the mellows that one feels in the heart, they come up and down like waves. Krishna conquers the heart in such a way that he pulls one towards him and then he pushes one away. And then one becomes even more pulled towards Krishna.
I think it goes with, as Srila Prabhupada used to mention, time, place, and circumstances.
That Krishna is treating them according to time, place, and circumstances.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also think that, you know, if the emotions weren't there, it would be really boring, and I think the bhakti would just be like very static, and then you would lose interest. But if it is going like a wave and like a roller coaster, it's more kind of interesting, because, you know, you are able to pick yourself up if you are down, and then when you are up, you can remember the hype of the you know, Krishna consciousness. Like, you know, like sometimes you go to these kirtans, you know, and then you become really ecstatic, and especially in Mayapur Kirtan Mela, it's so like, you know, it's undescribable. It's really nice feeling when you go to these sort of Kirtan Melas, and then like now, you know, going in COVID, you can just remember all those like hyped memories, you know. So it's like otherwise bhakti would be very static, and you just be going in a straight line, and even in a normal material life, when your life is really static and going just evenly, you lose interest. So I think maybe this is why there are all these ups and downs in bhakti as well. So even in material life, when you don't have any, like, you know, exciting things going on, or like down things going on, you do not appreciate when you have got this high, you know, the highness in your life. If you didn't have the downness, you wouldn't appreciate, you know, the highness in your life. So even in a simple material life, it would become boring. So maybe this is the reason you have ups and downs in your bhakti. I'm not sure. This is my understanding.
Yeah, I think what how I understand Champakrata Mataji is saying, if there is no comparison, then there is no appreciation.
Yeah.
Because
In
like
the material world,
like in a material life, if there is no up and down, then there is no comparison. Then you don't appreciate a good time, you know.
Yeah, that's true. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, that's what I understood. Yeah.
So if you don't, like you see, you will not appreciate the high times you had or the good times you had if you didn't have the down times, like, you know, if you had bad times in your life. So yeah, I suppose even in material life, you don't appreciate it because, you know, if you don't have ups and downs, and if you have static life, you're not going to appreciate. And then, you know, when you're down, you like, even in your material life, when you're down, you seem to remember Krishna more. So like, you know, it helps you to pick up a bit more. And then when you pick up yourself in the devotion service, you're slightly higher than where you left. So Krishna needs to throw you down, because otherwise you'll be at the same level. Because when he throws you down, and when you're praying and when you're deeply praying to come out of that down life, you will pick yourself up slightly higher. So you really like progressing in your spiritual life.
yeah, it's an interesting comparison, because in many ways it's true, and in many ways it's also very different. Spiritual life is also very different from material life. So it's easy to see it in comparison to material life, but at the same time, it can be understood differently to material life as well, because material life is made of the three modes of nature, and all the modes of nature are actually fighting against us to forget Krishna. Yeah, we know that, isn't it? Because they're material modes of nature. So we're always trying to remember Krishna, no matter which modes of nature we're in. And these modes of nature, they change from goodness, passion, ignorance. Yes, in our life. Sometimes in the mode of goodness, we forget Krishna also, because, you know, good times we forget Krishna. In passionate times, you know, we can forget Krishna also. You know, we're so busy with what's going on, we forget Krishna. And of course, in the mode of ignorance, naturally, Krishna isn't even in the picture. Krishna is forgotten. Yeah. But also, for the devotee, they can remember Krishna, whether one's going through the mode of ignorance, or rather, let's say one is influenced by the mode of ignorance, one is influenced by mode of passion or goodness. That influence doesn't affect the devotee. Yeah. So that's material life and Krishna consciousness in the material world. There's duality. Yeah. But in the spiritual world, it's a very different experience, and it's difficult to understand that when we try and see it through material life. That's because in the spiritual world, there isn't the three modes of nature. Yeah. The spiritual world is Satchitananda. It's eternity, bliss, and knowledge. Yeah. Every experience is actually bringing one closer to Krishna. Every experience is already fully Krishna conscious. Every experience is fully ecstatic. Yeah. Just the shape that just the moods that come through the experience, they can be very sober, or they can be very exciting, or they can be very, you know, they have all these different emotions, but they're all spiritual moods. So the point is that everything in the spiritual world is always going up. It's always going up like that, waves going up and up and up. Yeah. And what actually makes the difference between the spiritual consciousness and the material consciousness is that we understand Krishna is always the controller. This is the main difference. The main difference is that we know Krishna is always in control. So if we have that realization very early in our Krishna consciousness, if we have that realization that no matter what happens with the modes of nature, Krishna is always in control. Whether I'm influenced by mode of goodness, Krishna is in control. Passion, Krishna is in control. Mode of ignorance, Krishna is in control. then it is more like the spiritual world, because we know Krishna is always taking care of me. Yeah. In the material world, the problem we have is we forget Krishna, then we remember Krishna. We forget Krishna, we remember Krishna. So that's different. Because in the spiritual world, they always know Krishna is in control. They're always dependent on Krishna. So no matter what Krishna even does to them, no matter what Krishna does to the pure devotees, they always know this is what Krishna wants for me, no matter what. Like Prabhupada, he had heart attack on the Jaladuta going to America, but he was not condemning Krishna. Huh? He sacrificed his own life to go to America to fulfill the orders of his guru, to fulfill the orders of the representative of Krishna, his guru. And still he was so surrendered to Krishna. You can do with me what you like. You can make me your puppet, make me dance. Prabhupada prayed like that. Huh? He just said, I'm like your puppet. See? So there's, in one sense, there are similarities. We see the ups and downs in material world, but the important thing is to see that Krishna is always in control. Is that okay? That was just some thoughts I had on this. So we can maybe read one more paragraph then and give who's the next reader? Champaklata Mataji Ma'am, if you want to read the one more paragraph. Can you unmute, Ma'am?
Hare Krishna.
Eva.
Gopis were not ordinary women. In essence, they were on the equal level with Krishna. They are his eternal associates. As it is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita, they are expansion of the pleasure potency of Krishna. And as his potency, they are non-different from him. Although they were depressed by the words of Krishna, they did not like to use harsh words against him. Yet they wanted to rebuke Krishna for his unkind words, and therefore they began to speak in faltering voices. They did not like to use harsh words against Krishna because he was their dearmost, their heart and soul. The gopis had only Krishna within their hearts. They were completely surrendered and dedicated souls. Naturally, when they heard such unkind words, they tried to reply, but in the attempt, torrents of tears fell from their eyes. Finally, they managed to speak.
Okay, so here, Prabhupada makes an important point that what differentiates the gopis from anyone else? What makes the gopis extremely special? I'm asking as a question.
Although they were a bit disappointed and angry with Krishna, they didn't want to use harsh words, whereas others would have, if sometimes, like normally, if you are really annoyed with people or if you're angry with people, you start using harsh words against them. And in this way, because they didn't want to hurt Krishna, so you can feel that, you know, their loyalty with Krishna and their pure love of Krishna is shining in this paragraph, because, you know, they had unconditional, unmotivational love for Krishna. So they didn't want to hurt Krishna, or they didn't want to upset Krishna, even though they were angry and upset with him. So it's just unmotivational, unconditional love for Krishna.
Yes, so they didn't want to offend Krishna. But in the beginning of the paragraph as well, Prabhupada gives a really important point, what makes the gopis different to ordinary women as well. Yeah.
They were on an equal level with Krishna. He's saying.
Yeah, Prabhupada says three things. He says, so there's three things which make the gopis different from ordinary women or ordinary souls, let's say. Yeah, or conditioned souls, let's say. So number one, is that they were on equal level with Krishna, you know. So Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The gopis are on that equal level, you know. The equally powerful is Krishna. It's extraordinary. Krishna has blessed them with as much potency as he personally has. So this is one thing. Second thing is they're his eternal associates. So they've never ever forgotten Krishna. They're always fully in Krishna consciousness. Yeah. And then the third point is that they're his pleasure potency, expansions of his pleasure potency. So this is a huge topic in itself, but just briefly, what is Krishna's pleasure potency? Who is Krishna's pleasure potency? Or what is it? We sometimes hear this term, pleasure potency. It's known as Hladini Shakti.
Ladini? Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, no, I just said Ladini.
Hladini Shakti, yeah.
And Radharani being the representative of the Ladini Shakti.
Exactly, yes. So how does Krishna feel pleasure? Is a big science in itself. Krishna feels pleasure through devotion, of course, devotional service. Krishna can't be conquered. God can't be conquered by anyone. Huh? There's no one equal to him and no one greater than him. This is the definition of God. But if someone is devoted to him, that conquers him. Why? Because Krishna experiences pleasure, or he experiences this Hladini potency when the devotee serves him purely. And the personification of Krishna's pleasure is Srimati Radharani. She is the personification of his Hladini Shakti. Huh? So these gopis, they're simply expansions of Srimati Radharani. They're simply expansions of Krishna's pleasure potency. Because Krishna being God, why he should only experience pleasure in one way? Krishna can experience unlimited pleasure. He is an unlimited person, after all. He's not a limited person. Krishna being God is unlimited, so his pleasure is also unlimited. And so each and every one of these gopis has a special and unique relationship with Krishna, and they all can give him, are all offering him pleasure. They're actually made of Krishna's pleasure potency. They're not made of material elements, like our body is made of blood and flesh and bones and stool and pus and urine, all these horrible things, isn't it? That's a fact. So we should not think that the gopis are ordinary, as Prabhupada says here. There is pleasure potency. They're not different from Krishna. They're as powerful as him. Okay. So really amazing points which Prabhupada is bringing out here. And at the same time, they don't want to hurt Krishna, as my mother said. They're so careful in their dealings with Krishna. So this is very instructive for us. If we want to be in touch with Krishna's pleasure potency, if we want to give Krishna pleasure, then we can learn from the gopis how to please Krishna.
Prabhuji, I don't understand the sentence that they are same as Krishna. How can they be exactly the same as Krishna?
They're on equal level with Krishna?
Yeah.
This?
Yes.
They're on equal level with Krishna because Krishna is never touched by the modes of material nature. So the gopis are also never touched by the modes of material nature. Yeah?
Okay.
So Krishna never become illusioned. He never makes any mistakes. He doesn't have imperfect senses. Yeah? So Krishna doesn't have any defect. These gopis also, they don't have any defects. The same way the spiritual master is also equal level with Krishna. The spiritual master is free from any defect.
Okay, so in their qualities, as opposed to all the opulences that Krishna has. That is exclusive only to Krishna, isn't it? But you can have quality. So the gopis and the spiritual masters, they are similar in their qualities to Krishna. Is that it?
So Krishna, his qualities, when we say, well, you use the word opulences, isn't it? So they also have the same opulences as Krishna. They do.
Hare Krishna.
Because who is the goddess of fortune? Huh? She has got all fortune. She's got all opulences. Yeah. So Krishna, that's Krishna, that's Vishnu's wife, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi. Yeah. So it's not different with Srimati Radharani. She has all opulences. Yeah. Therefore, she can attract Krishna because she has all opulences. All her opulences are used in the service of Krishna. Yeah. This is the thing. Whereas if we get a little bit of Lakshmi, if we get a little bit of fortune, our tendency is to enjoy it for ourselves. You see? But she is the personification of all opulences. She is the goddess of all fortune. But she is fully serving Krishna with all those qualities, all those opulences. But let's hear from Satyanarayan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, it's all about loving relationship, isn't it? What Krishna has a loving relationship with gopis. Gopis have a same kind of loving relationship with Krishna. That's how they are equal.
Yes, Krishna loves the gopis as much as the gopis love Krishna.
Krishna, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, both. Thank you, Prabhuji.
So we can end here. We're a little bit over time. So we can see how Krishna has spoken so much now in a displeasing way to the gopis, but they haven't said anything in their frustration. They've not wanted to, they've not dared to speak anything to Krishna. Okay. This is the stage we've reached now. But from next week, when we start reading, they will speak back to Krishna. Okay. And yeah, we'll continue discussing that from next week. All right. So thank you everyone for joining. This Thursday we have got a Gauranga book Sangha as well. So we're reading the pastimes of Gauranga now again, and we'll be reading every 2 weeks on a Thursday. Okay, so I'll send out a message about that separately in the group. So watch out for that. So 7:30 p.m. on Thursday, every 2 weeks. So not only we're going to read Krishna pastimes, we're also going to read Gauranga pastimes. Okay, so everyone's welcome to join that as well. It will be on the same meeting invite, same link as this meeting link. All right. We'll chant one round of japa together now. So it'd be wonderful if you could all stay and we can all chant together. I'm just going to get my bead bag right now. Okay, I have my bead bag. So everyone feel, if we could keep the microphones on, then we can all hear the chanting. We can all have chanting together. When you finish chanting, of course, just put your